The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti.
Present.
Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderman Browning.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Present.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Present.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Sanye.
Present.
14 present. You have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will dispense with line item 3 and go to the special order of the day to take up the report from the Legislation and Rules Committee. Alderman from the 5th, Alderwoman from the 6th, you are recognized on the report of the Legislation and
Thank you, Madam President. Today, we move to fully credential our newest member of the board from the Alderwoman of the 8th.
Would the newly elected Alderwoman from the 8th please approach the dais? Come on up. And with that, I will turn it over to our registrar to initiate the oath of office.
Good morning. I am Amber Boykin Sims, the City Registrar. You're about to take your official oath of office. What will happen is you will raise your right hand. I will say aye. You will say aye. You will state your name, and then you'll repeat after me. When it comes to the point in the oath, you can either swear or affirm your qualification. You can use either word. Please raise your right hand. Now repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jamie Cox Entwistle,
Of the City of St. Louis.
of the City of St. Louis,
In the State of Missouri.
and the State of Missouri,
Having been elected by.
having been elected by
The qualified voters.
the qualified voters
Of the City of St. Louis.
of the City of St. Louis
To the position of.
to the position of
Member of the Board of Aldermen.
Member of the Board of Aldermen
From the 8th Ward.
from the 8th Ward
Of the City of St. Louis.
of the City of St. Louis,
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
do solemnly affirm
That I have all the qualifications.
that I have all the qualifications
And am.
and am
Not subject to.
not subject to
Any of the disqualifications.
any of the disqualifications
Named in the charter.
named in the charter
For the office.
for the office
Or employment.
or employment
I'm about to assume.
I'm about to assume,
That I will support.
that I will support
The Constitution.
the Constitution
Of the United States.
of the United States
And of this state.
and of this state,
And the charter and ordinances.
and the charter and ordinances
Of the city.
of the city,
That I will be.
that I will be
Influenced only by.
influenced only by
The consideration of fitness.
the consideration and fitness
In the appointment.
and the appointment,
Promotion.
promotion,
Demotion.
demotion,
Suspension.
suspension,
Or discharge.
or discharge
Of officers.
of officers
Or employees.
or employees,
That I will not.
that I will not
Expend nor authorize.
expend nor authorize
The expenditure of money.
the expenditure of money
Otherwise than.
otherwise than
For the adequate consideration.
for the adequate consideration
And efficient service.
and efficient service
To the city.
to the city,
And will faithfully discharge.
and will faithfully discharge
The duties of my office.
the duties of my office
Or employment.
or employment.
You may lower your hand. On behalf of myself, the Honorable Megan Green, we want to thank you for your service to the City of St. Louis, and congratulations.
With that, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti.
Present.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
present,
Alderwoman Sanye.
present,
Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Present.
President Green.
Present.
15 present. You have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will go to line item number 5, introduction of honored guests, and I will recognize the newly elected Alderwoman from the 8th on the introduction of honored guests.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the board, I am so honored to be here today, and I am so glad to stand before you as the newly elected Alderwoman of the 8th Ward. I know we have a long meeting today, so I'm going to keep my remarks very brief, but I did just want to take some time to thank the people of the 8th Ward for trusting me and electing me to serve them. It is a true honor, and I don't take it lightly. I also wanted to stop and thank a few people that helped me get to this moment. First and foremost, I want to thank God. I want to thank my family who you seated with me here today, my lovely parents, my husband, my daughter, and thank them for all the time that they allowed me to sacrifice to be able to serve this community. I also want to thank the people that helped get me here, my lovely team up in the audience, AJ, Taylor, Brady, all those people that trusted and put time, hard hours, and 90-degree heat because they believed in me and they believed in my ability to serve this community. So I want to thank and recognize them for being here today with me in this moment. To members of the board, I also want to introduce myself to you. I know some of you well, some of you I've met for the very first time today. I want to tell you who I am. I'm Jamie Cox Entry. I'm the daughter of 2 proud St. Louisans. I come from 4 generations of St. Louis families, and it is this history and my family that's instilled the passion for this city in me. And when I was just a little girl, 14 years old, I acted first on that passion and started my first youth organization. And even though I spent time away from St. Louis in college, I knew I wanted to come home and serve my community because my community is who raised me. And now, being elected to represent the 8th Ward, I feel like I get to live out that little girl's journey of wanting to do something to help make St. Louis better. And that's why I'm here on the floor with you all. I know that each of you care just as much about St. Louis as I do. You care about your wards, you care about your neighborhoods. So I'm honored to be elected to be part of this body to serve with you. And I know that as we get to know one each other and build these relationships, we'll all work to help make St. Louis a better place. I've learned really quickly that public service is a sacrifice, and anybody that signs up for this job doesn't do it if they don't have heart for the community. So I know that about each of you, and I hope you come to learn that about me as well. So to the great people of the great 8th Ward, I want to thank you again for electing me to serve you. It is a true honor and privilege to be part of this body, and I promise to commit to serving you to the best of my ability going forward. Thank you all.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderman for the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to have as my honored guest, actually former Alderwoman, I believe, of the 8th Ward, my Annie Rice. I say my Annie Rice because we got a little special connection. If we can make her feel welcome in the gallery, everybody. As well as I would like to have Collector of Revenue Greg FX Daly as my honored guest as well. Thank you.
The 13th.
I know everybody's looking like, why is she down here? Trust me, I'm staying far away. I don't want no germs. But I came down here for a special occasion to congratulate the newly elected alderperson. But I have my housing committee, 13th Ward, that came down here, and I want to recognize them. So these are my honored guests. My housing committee for the 13th Ward. Could you all please stand up, please? So these are residents that fight and fume and laugh, but they make sure that people understand what we want in our community. So I am honored that they are down here and invited them to sit in to see how we function as a board. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I have a couple. First, I'll add to the already welcoming thoughts we gave to our former colleague, Annie Rice, and also add that with her, she has some interns from Marsh City Defenders. If you all could stand and be welcome today. And my other special guests, along with our new sister in service, Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Today is an amazing sister in the community who is a shining light, always shows up for everybody across the city and the county, probably in the region for that matter. It is Asia Starr's birthday. Asia, we had a ball last night at Bar 22 to kick off your birthday. Today is your birthday. I pray that you feel all the love, celebration, and excitement that you give to others every day today on your birthday. Happy birthday. We love you. Enjoy your day.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 13th.
I'm sorry. And so I did have my housing committee, but I had residents of the 13th Ward. So I did send out a mass email and invited residents to attend. So would my residents of the 13th Ward please stand up? Thank you so much.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 7th. Alderwoman from the 7th.
Sorry, can you guys not hear me?
Can barely hear you.
Can you guys?
You saying?
You're frozen.
Sorry. Is this better?
We can hear you for a second there. Oh, now you're gone.
Are we back?
Okay, there we go. I think we got it now.
Okay, thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just wanted to join in and give a very warm welcome to Alderwoman Antwi. I welcome you being here. I look forward to your contributions and congratulations.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 11th.
Good morning, and thank you, President and members of the board. What a wonderful surprise. I just got a text message and looked up to see a childhood friend and classmate, Lolitha Colley. The Colley family and the McElrath family. The Colleys had 15 children, same mother and father, and the McElraths, there are 12 of us. And so, one of my greatest memories with Lolitha and her sister, she has a twin, Arletha, and one of my greatest memories, and I ended up writing a paper about it when I was in college. I called it Potato Chip Communion. So we would sit at the back of church, and when all of the adults would go to communion, we would sneak in potato chips and give each other communion with a potato chip, and then we teased that the blood of Christ was going to squirt in your mouth. So it's just the stupid things and funny things that children do. But I am so grateful to have reconnected her. She is a member of Bethlehem Methodist Baptist Church on Cass, which is a wonderful, wonderful church. I was there this past Sunday, and every time that I go to that church, I get a wonderful message. And so, Lolitha, it is so great to see you, and love you, and we'll be talking and getting together soon. Take care.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, I also want to make sure that I welcome and recognize new elected Alderwoman Cox Antwi to the Board of Aldermen. Welcome. I look forward to being able to sit down and talk through legislative priorities in the coming days and weeks. But buckle up. This might be a long meeting. We will see. I also just want to recognize members of the Justice for Janice Coalition who are also up in the gallery today. And with that, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the approval of the minutes from Tuesday, July 8th, 2025.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from Tuesday, July 8th, 2025.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we approve the minutes from Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, C, and D of the agenda and has been placed in the Google Drive for your review.
Does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Seeing none, first reading of board bills. We have a couple of bills to be introduced from the floor. So with that, I will introduce Alderwoman from the 12th. I will recognize you on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 59 for first.
Madam President, members of the board, I move to suspend the rules to introduce Board Bill 59. The purpose of the bill is to create a overhead crosswalk on the Rankin Technical College. They're going to build a new building there, and they're going to connect two buildings with the overpass. And if you ever go down Kings Highway and you look at the overpass that's between some of the hospital buildings, that it's something like that, only not as quite as exquisite as that. But it is to build an overpass, and I'd ask for a suspension of the rules to introduce the Board Bill 59.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 12th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 59. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Aldridge. 15 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 12th. Madam Clerk, if you could please place Board Bill 59 at the end of the first reading of Board Bill.
So noted.
With that, I will recognize Alderwoman from the 10th on the suspension of the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 6.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 60.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 60. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sonier.
Aye.
Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Aldridge. 15 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th. If you could please place Board Bill 60 at the end of the first reading of Board Bills.
So noted.
First reading of Board Bills.
Board Bill 53, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, to calm the flow of traffic on the 4100, 4200, 4300, 4400, 4500, and 4600 blocks of Carter Avenue. Board Bill 54, sponsored by Alderwoman Velazquez, an ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the City of St. Louis a proposed amendment to the Charter of the City of St. Louis, repealing Section 5 of Article 4 of the Charter in order to have the same nonpartisan two-top runoff system in special elections for aldermen that is used in regular city elections, providing for election to be held for voting on the proposed amendment and for the manner of voting and for the publication, certification, deposit, and recording of this ordinance and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 55, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated January the 28th, 2025 for 5105 Cabanne Avenue area in the City of St. Louis. Board Bill number 56, the number was not used this session. Board Bill 57, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Enforcement, authorizing the Department of Health to accept the Behavioral Health Systems Change Initiative Collaboration Planning Grant Award up to $100,000 from the St. Louis Mental Health Board, appropriating such funds to the Department of Health, authorizing the expenditures of such funds to fulfill the obligations of said grant to the extent such funds are received, authorizing contracts and other documents to expend such funds to the extent received, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 58, sponsored by Alderwoman Sanye, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated November 14th, 2023 for the Ben Park West, Fox Park, Tower Grove East scatter sites in the City of St. Louis. Board Bill 59, sponsored by Alderwoman Tyus, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service vacating a portion of the air rights for a 15-foot section of Taylor south of Children's Place, adjacent to City Block 3790 and 4781 South, in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, as hereinafter described in accordance with the Charter Authority and in conformity with Section 1-4, Article 21 of the Charter, and imposing certain conditions on such vacation. Board Bill 60, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and President Green, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission, amending Chapter 26 of the Zoning Code, defining, permitting, and regulating accessory dwelling units and containing a severability and emergency clause. That's the extent of first reading board bills.
Madam Clerk, if you could please assign Board Bills 59 and 60 to the HUD's committee.
So noted.
Reference to Committee of Board Bills.
To Public Infrastructure, Board Bill 53. To Legislation and Rules, Board Bill 54. To HUD's Committee, Board Bill 55, 58, 59, and 60. To Health and Human Development, Board Bill 57. That's the extent of reference of Committee of Board Bills.
Second reading and report of standing committees.
We have none.
Report of special committees.
We have none.
Board bills for perfection consent.
We have none.
Board bills for perfection.
We have none.
We can dispense with line items 14 through 17. Report of engrossment.
Board Bill 18, 47, 40, 48, 50, 42, 44, 45 as amended in committee.
Third reading, third reading and final passage of board bills consent.
Board Bill 18, 47, 40, 48, 50, and 42.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar. Alderman from the 9th.
I'd like to request that we move Board Bill 47 to the informal calendar of third reading.
Madam Clerk, please place Board Bill 47 on the informal calendar.
So noted.
With that, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 12th.
I'm sorry, I'd like to have Board Bill 18 removed from the third reading final consent calendar and put on the third reading, please.
Madam Clerk, if you could please place Board Bill 18 on the third reading of board bills.
So noted.
With that, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the third reading, finally passage of board bills on the consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 2nd, that we adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Ryan.
Aye.
Alderman Devoti.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Cox Antwi. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Thank you. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
15 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Third reading and final passage of board bills.
Board Bill 44 is sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, President Green, Alderwoman Velazquez, Alderman Browning, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderwoman Keys, and Alderman Aldridge. An ordinance directing the Neighborhood Stabilization Division to establish a registration process and registration database for registered neighborhood organizations in the city of St. Louis, and establish the eligibility criteria for the neighborhood organization applicants, including a severability clause.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 44.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 44.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 44. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
I renew my motion.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President and members of the board, I rise in opposition of this board bill. After long debate last week, of which one of the things was said by the sponsor is that this bill had been ongoing in discussion with neighborhoods for several years. I believe she said 2021 or so. Anyway, I was approached. First of all, I went and asked my neighborhood organizations. None of them that I talked to had ever heard of this process. But I was surprised today to get emails from other neighborhood organizations saying that they were not consulted, and also asking people not to vote for it or to vote present, and that they wanted the questions that were asked answered. So it wasn't just me seeking people out. It was people that sought me out, or people who called me and agreed with it when they read the proposed ordinance, which is now a board bill, regarding how this whole thing would go about. I again strongly am opposed to neighborhood stabilization office trying to set up anything. They are dysfunctional there. They have a lot of problems going on, and it was after the meeting got calls from people renewing just what I had said or affirming what I had said, to say that exactly they have racial problems there. They can't seem to hire Black neighborhood improvement specialists if their life depended on it. There's a lot of infighting, and this didn't just start right now. This has been ongoing for several administrations now. They keep people that don't do their jobs, and then they just move them around to another ward instead of handling that. If you're not able to do your job, you don't just yank the person out and put them in another ward, because if they're not doing their job in that ward, they're not going to do their job in the next ward. They don't let aldermen know if they're going to move people. They don't do their jobs. So I can do a better job riding my entire ward myself and turning in things than a lot of times I get from the neighborhood stabilization officers that have been assigned to my community. Not all of them, because I have 3 that are very good, but I have 6. Also, I have a big problem with that whole neighborhood stabilization citizen service bureau. As I said before, it's a big mess. It's been a mess. They don't respond to these requests for services from North St. Louis. So some of the neighborhood stabilization officers said, well, we do turn stuff in, but it doesn't get done. So that goes to the departments. I told you last week that I had a conversation with a reporter from the Post who went and pulled numbers to see what it looked like in certain neighborhoods, and could see a trend of not responding, and a long-term difference in when people call from North St. Louis and South St. Louis, of not responding and not getting anything or closing things out. To try to assign the Neighborhood Stabilization Division to establish a registration process is a mess. I'm also going to say again, this is backwards the way you're doing something. You should have had them come before you and say, we've asked you to put together some kind of plan, if that's what you want them to do. And then bring that plan before the full board and the committees so you can discuss what they said. You actually are passing this thing, which has a lot of problems in it, but you're not bringing a plan, and you're going to leave it to them to make a plan. And the sponsor said last time when she was talking about some of the problems I had, oh, people wouldn't do that. People do things all the time that they are not supposed to, and that we wouldn't pass anything, and that it then wouldn't, that people would do something that was wrong or against the ordinance. We have speeding limits that say 25, 30, 40. We have red lights. We have stop signs. People drive right through them. Your ordinances and your board bills are only good as that which you write. And again, when you write weak ordinances like this and you assign it to people who cannot do their job, then you're going to have problems. And when you have neighborhoods now saying, I was not consulted, we didn't know anything about it, then I don't understand what the rush to a judgment or the rush to pass a bill for that other neighborhoods are now saying that they didn't know anything about it. One of those that I got a letter from was, I'm sorry, not a letter, but an email from, and I'm sure you all got it, was, and maybe you didn't, was from the board of the Lindenwood Park Neighborhood Association. And they said they have voted and they were absolutely opposed to board bills 44 and 45, that they were not notified of these bills until it was too late to read it through and attend the meetings. The exact things this bill claims to avoid. Having now read the bills and watched the hearings, we feel these bills are rushed and do not have the proper input. The sponsor of the bill indicated that concerned parties were consulted for the drafting of this bill. What concerned parties? None of the neighborhoods in Alliance were consulted. We are a member of SLACO and heard nothing of this bill from SLACO. What neighborhood associations were consulted? Now, I know Lindenwood Park has been around for a while and is very active. They went on to say neighborhoods in this city are grassroots organizations consisting of volunteers who are doing for the neighborhood what city doesn't do: pick up trash, plant flowers, plant trees, maintain city parks, hold community events, etc. We don't want to worry about registering and having the city legislate our roles in the community. We are residents and constituents and expect transparency from the Board of Aldermen without having to create a bill. If the board would like to legislate that alders would inform the residents of their wards about upcoming bills, then do it. Notify all residents. It should have nothing to do with legislating volunteers. Representatives from the Neighborhood Alliance met this afternoon to discuss board bills 44 and 45. And representatives 100% concluded that due to the speed of the legislation, 15 days from first reading to scheduled vote on final passage, there has been inadequate time to allow for the consideration of the content and potential impact of this legislation. We therefore strongly urge you to vote present when a vote is called, and then refer board bills back to HUD's committee for further consideration when the board reconvenes following summer break. And it was signed by Pat Aquinto, Lindenwood Park Neighborhood Association. It was addressed to Alderman Ryans and the rest of the Board of Aldermen. I totally agree with them. And not only that, they should be bringing these organizations before them. We should have a list. Since we said we've been talking to these organizations, then I would request a list of who the board has talked to formulate this, because clearly the people over in South St. Louis, many of them were not informed, and in North St. Louis they were not informed. So I want to know, what was the list of organizations, and how do we get something from someone like Lindenwood, who's been around for a long time? I then get a letter from someone that I guess probably is in the 9th Ward, not letter, email, saying this pretty much, not as much as that one before, but just saying it's rather late, but he has an attached memo regarding Board Bill 44 and 45. There are many concerns expressed, all of which can and should be addressed before the legislation is enacted. Again, it should be. It is not a good way to do legislation, to pass a board bill and then say, you come and tell us how you can do this. It's much better to have the department that you want to put something together, present it as, this is what we think, this is what it should be, have it fully vetted, have neighborhoods who will be affected be there to talk about why they think this is a good job or not. And also, don't make it for all neighborhoods. I've said this before. If you want it for your wards and your neighborhood organizations want that, then do it. But then to try to impose this and enact this upon neighborhood organizations that do not want this, that volunteer, this whole thing of making them have to be formal, that doesn't make any sense. Again, I came from a neighborhood organization. How I got elected and went from a few people to 200 people in our group was because of some legislation that our alderperson was doing, and that it was about a zoning issue. And collectively, we came together, and we do that still seriously. We do that sometimes even now. And so it doesn't have to be something where we decide who is acknowledged, who is not acknowledged, who gets notices and who don't get notices. I actually like the notice thing, but I don't like is that you just give it to the people who you decide are the neighborhood representatives and should get it, and who are registered with the city. I have often and always been opposed to the way we do not give notice when we're doing Board of Adjustments and conditional use hearings, that we post on trees, that we post on posts, and that people rip them down when we actually have the ability to have people sign up and email them about these hearings. And I have been met with people saying, oh, we can't do that because the state law said requires we do that one way. We post it on a post, or we post it on a tree, or whatever. The state law does not say that you cannot do additional things. It just says you have to do that. Most certainly in this day and time, notice is very important, and it's easier to do than anything. If you got an email, you should be able to get it out in no time. But I have always went one step further and said, if you're doing conditional uses and you're asking for a Board of Adjustment to do a variance, that you should be required to mail within a certain amount, 500 feet or 1,000 feet anyway, just like we do when we're doing with liquor. Oftentimes you are changing a long-standing zoning ordinance or something that affects the neighborhood, but we are willy-nilly posting that on a post or a tree, and saying that that's all we can do and that's all we do. But here we come with neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods who register and say that they represent a neighborhood, I will say again, often do not have 2 or 3 people. I do like that you talk about that they should have enough people, that they should be able to say what their procedure is. What do they have? Open meetings? Do they have an election? That is all good. What is not good is putting the cart before the horse, and also passing this legislation when organizations and neighborhoods are saying they were not consulted. I think that conflicts with what the sponsor said. And I also don't like the combination of the neighborhoods, that, a neighborhood would be combined. I've had this in many occasions that a different person from a whole different part of town shows up to say how great it would be to have liquor in, or some another, what is it? If you would have another store, and they call them convenience stores, but they're really liquor stores because they always want liquor, and they're junk stores. They sell junk, and they show up. This person gets paid to say what a great thing that they are, but they live in South St. Louis. In this legislation, it's talked about combining neighborhoods up to 5 if you represent it, but it doesn't say they have to be contiguous. It doesn't say that they have to be cover that neighborhood, be a resident of their neighborhood. And the sponsor of this legislation said, oh, they wouldn't do that. Shaw couldn't be included in that. It doesn't say that in legislation. When Missouri is a black letter law state. And if you don't say you can't do it, you can do it. Now, when these rules come back in which they say, well, this is how we're going to run that, are we now going to come back and are we going to then do a board bill to accept the recommendations of the neighborhood specialist, improvement specialist division? If we are, why wouldn't we take their recommendations first and then say, okay, we're going to adopt them, and we're going to go through this, and we're going to have transparency. We're going to see why this is a good idea, why this is not. There's no reason to pass this before you have the recommendations. This is bad legislation. It's not a good way to pass legislation. It is not good for the neighborhood organizations who spring up for all kind of reasons. I sprung up because of a Domino's pizza, and that was inappropriately placed someplace right at our corner when Domino's was saying, we're going to deliver this pizza within so many minutes, and they were having all these accidents and running over people. And we sprung up, and ultimately Domino's did what we said after having court fight, and after they're actually being located there. Then they actually went to the place that we said they should have been in the first place, where they prospered for many, many years until they moved. Now they were at Martin Luther King and Kings Highway, and now they're at Enright and Kings Highway. But it was never a good idea. And that's when neighborhoods can spring up, and they don't have to be registered. In fact, I think I don't like that they have to be registered to be acknowledged, because that's not right. And that's not really a neighborhood organization. Neighborhood organization does not have to be acknowledged by the city to be one. I do understand that you're saying it's only going to be for those who get notified, but you're kind of giving them a step up over some of the other people that maybe don't want to be sponsored by the city. Because I see this headed toward that we're going to decide who the neighborhood organizations are for the community. And I don't like where I see this headed. And I don't like that you're going to try to combine 3 or 4 or 5 about neighborhoods, because they should not be able to do that. And that'll make it something larger, just as it has with these large wards that we have. I never liked going to 14, not because I can't get elected. I didn't like it because it takes away the intimacy that I had when I had 4 neighborhoods. I have 12 now. It's very hard to be intimate with your community and serve the way you're supposed to when you have to serve 12 neighborhoods and not 4 neighborhoods. And this is something headed toward. And we keep doing these things a little at a time. We don't tell people what the big picture is. And we do have an agenda going behind all of this. We did it with changing how we vote, getting rid of, and not telling people we're getting rid of Democrats and Republicans, going to nonpartisan, going to, you got to have elections, no matter if it was only 2 people, then coming back in the board and changing that, not going back out to the vote. All of these kind of things are things that make for bad representation of communities. And I am continuing to oppose Board Bill 44. And here's the other thing. Yet last week, this was all of these things about, I couldn't talk about what happened in Board Bill 44 because it was already passed. They are companion bills. If you cannot answer the questions, they should not be passed. And I will be talking about 44 and 45 in 45 again, because when you look at 45, it refers to things that are in 44, and I will continue to do it. Right now, we're talking about how you register, and it talks about the city benefit from organized, transparent, and predictable meaning of achieving effective civic engagement with various and diverse neighborhoods. I think you're going to go just the opposite. And it's amazing to me from these people who are on this board who came from disrupting things, that came from putting cars in the middle of Highway 40, that come in and doing all the marching and bringing disruption, would then try to say that you got to have effective civic engagement by making sure that they are registered. Why would you do that? Do we have to then ask all these people who are out on the streets protesting? Then do we require them to have to register to protest? This is amazing to me, that the more things change, the more they get really crazy and stay the same. So I don't see how the city benefits from us making organizations register, or that I don't understand how we benefit for saying somebody that has 3 or 4 or 5 neighborhoods and represents 3 or 4 or 5 neighborhoods, that gives them the ability to get a notice. Everybody should get a notice, or no one should get a notice. And they actually in here have more rights than the members of the Board of Aldermen when you look at this legislation. It is ridiculous. It is not a good piece of legislation. I would again stand opposed to it and ask people not to vote for it, or ask the people from Lindenwood said, if you cannot vote no, just vote present. And this really needs to go back to committee, and it needs to be vetted much better. Thank you. I have nothing else to say.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized to close.
I renew my motion.
I ask for a roll call.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 44. Roll call is required for the third reading and final passage of board bills. So, Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
No.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Pass. Thank you. Alderwoman Tyus.
No.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys. Alderman Aldridge. 9 aye votes, 5 no votes, and 1 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to third read and finally pass Board Bill 44.
Board Bill 45, as amended in committee, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, President Green, Alderwoman Velazquez, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderwoman Keys, and Alderman Aldridge. An ordinance requiring certain notices to be sent to the relevant registered neighborhood organizations and authorize additional communications with registered neighborhood organizations containing a severability clause.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 45 as amended in committee.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 44 as amended in committee.
45.
45 as amended in committee.
Is there a second? It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 2nd, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 45 as amended in committee. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
I renew my motion.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, I will wonder if the alderman from the 4th would yield.
The Alderman from the 4th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 12th.
I love nothing more.
Alderwoman from the 12th, you may proceed.
Good morning, Alderman from the 4th. Thank you for agreeing to yield. I asked for you specifically because you are an attorney. And so construction of ordinances and board bills mean everything. I want to bring your attention to page 2 of 3, line 13D. So we have all these things in Board Bill 45 that says what you're supposed to do. But what is funny to me is Section D, which says failure of a city agency to provide a neighborhood notice to a registered neighborhood organization pursuant to this section shall not constitute a violation of this ordinance and shall not result in any penalty or liability and shall not invalidate, delay, or otherwise affect the validity or enforceability of any decision, determination, or action taken by the city agency. So, Alderman, tell me what you think that means as far as it goes to passing. If everything had a clause like that in it, what is the enforceability of such an ordinance or board bill if you then say nothing happens if you don't do it? Tell me about that. What do you think? So maybe I'm missing something. So I want to hear from another attorney. What does that clause mean to you?
So my understanding, and I haven't dove into this the way that you or maybe the sponsor has, because I've been on the fence about this legislation. But my understanding is that clause came from the city councilor's office in order just to make sure that the city wouldn't have specific liability in the event that something was overlooked.
Okay. So, and just saying that, I understand it came from the city councilor's office because they basically nullified the whole thing. That's my whole point, is that when they put that in there, so when they don't send us notices, there are some things that happen that we can go back and raise heck and make them rehear things because they're supposed to give them to us. Why are we saying that then we're going to have to require that they give them notice, but if they don't, oh, well, nothing happens. Tell me how then you enforce that. What if people just don't do it? What's the enforcement mechanism? That's what I want to know, not that somebody else did it. How do you enforce that you have to send it?
I agree with you. You know, I think one of the things that we've discussed frequently, you and I, are penalties clauses in legislation, and without a penalties clause, legislation really is just guidance, I guess I would say. And that seems to be where this particular piece of legislation is more about telling the NSDs to make a good faith effort to do this. If you notice, I voted no on the previous bill. So I do understand where you're coming from on this, certainly.
Okay, and also, would it be something? Would you advise that if we're going to ask somebody to give us a set of rules that they're going to submit to how to do something like this, wouldn't it to you make more sense if we ask them to do it up front and to present it to the committee and the full board? Then we could fully vet it and maybe make suggestions. Why would we pass a board bill and when we could just pass a resolution asking them to come up with something and then vet that fully and then write a board bill based on what they say? Does it make sense that we wouldn't have them do it before? And them being the neighborhood stabilization officers, why wouldn't we have them do it before? Maybe you can tell me a reason why that doesn't make sense.
So I certainly understand where you're coming from there. My understanding of this board bill is that it's the culmination of several years of work with NSD and SLACO. I also understand neighborhood groups, including mine, and you got the email from Lindenwood Park, that's the 4th Ward. Don't feel like they were properly consulted during this. That's the reason that I'm a no. It's not that I think this is a terrible idea. It's that I think that we need to bring the various parties to the table. If you recall, during the conversations on both short-term rentals and liquor licensing, we heard from a robust group of neighborhood associations and committees several times. I am not on the committee that this legislation is in. It was at least 3 aldermen. And I don't believe that there was that same level of scrutiny from neighborhood associations on this particular piece of legislation. And since this is essentially the formal regulation of these neighborhood associations, I understand why they feel like they should have been at the table more than they have had the opportunity to be.
And your organization, Lindenwood, that's been active for some time that you know of?
So it was part of the old 23rd Ward. So it was certainly active and is they have all kinds of committees and subcommittees, and it's a very well attended. It's a well-oiled machine that lets me know what the folks in Lindenwood Park think about virtually everything that happens in the ward. Or in the neighborhood, excuse me.
And I've been hearing from them since even before you were on the board of aldermen.
Absolutely.
That's why I know Lindenwood. So I've been hearing from them for 30 years about, maybe not 30, but a long 20-something years they've been active. And the same thing I want to say with the Penrose neighborhood and other neighborhoods, organizations, and just were not consulted at all. And SLACO, this is what I said before when you said SLACO. What was interesting to me is I got correspondence from people who said they were part of SLACO and they still didn't know anything about it. And they were organizations that have been ongoing for a while. So when you're going to have a bill that they represent the neighborhood organizations, but you leave them out and substantially especially something like Lindenwood or Penrose or maybe Vanderbilt or places like that have been ongoing and really working and putting the work in, then you have not included people, you have excluded people, and you have made the assumption that SLACO could put together a deal that's in the best interest of all neighborhood organizations. And I said last time that in North St. Louis, SLACO was never able to get a foothold. We actually were under the Urban League, and we had block units with the Urban League, and for ongoing for 30-something years have been the Urban League. So I don't understand how the block units and organizations from the Urban League were not at the table. I also, whereas you put SLACO as somebody who would be at the table. That is wrong. That is excluding people. And this is not a good idea to do that. And it is not something that that we should be passing. And so what you were saying about Lindenwood let you know what they thought. If they knew anything about this before, do you think you would have heard something from them? If they had heard something about it or been invited to a meeting or had any wind of it?
Oh, I think they absolutely would have shown up, and I think it's important to note that, and this is no slight at all on SLACO, but SLACO is an association that neighborhood groups need to pay money to annually to be a part of, and there are neighborhood groups who either cannot or choose not to raise those funds and pay those dues annually. And I think that it's important that we recognize as both aldermen and as a city as a whole that when anytime that a group of concerned citizens gets together in the area that they live and want to discuss the conditions that they live in, that there shouldn't be a economic barrier of entry to having your voice heard or to being a part of the conversation.
And that's a good point that I didn't make. I also think that it's not economics. You just may not want to be part of that group. And you may not want that group to have any say-so over your neighborhood organization, especially I don't see a residency in any of these board bills about that you have to live in that community. You don't want to be part of 4 or 5 organizations. You want your neighborhood to be represented. That's why we had neighborhoods. That's why when we did redistricting, we were supposed to. One of the things that we had a lot of conversation about was not dividing neighborhoods. When they tore up my neighborhood 20 years ago, they put it in 4 different neighborhoods. And Kingsway East is a very small neighborhood and it's sisters with Kingsway West. But they put it in 4 different neighborhoods and basically destroyed a lot of it and did things against the will of what the community wanted. But it was so split and it was in wards that the other aldermen didn't necessarily listen to what the neighborhood organization was saying. And the whole point of having an impact neighborhood within the boundaries of the neighborhood, so they have a force to get to the alderperson or the state rep or the state senators, much as Lindenwood does, Penrose does it, Kingsway East did it for years and West. And so when you are now going to allow some other people to say, well, I also represent this neighborhood, and they are not residents of that neighborhood, or to get notices and be able to weigh in and come in and say, well, I'm part of this neighborhood that's been recognized by the city, that gives them, to me, more credence than the people who just get together. And I really do believe that the full effect of neighborhood organizations is not to have them registered. If they want to be registered, okay, there's nothing preventing them to, but to request and to set up a whole set of rules really does discourage people who do get together. And I saw this during the tornado. I saw a fantastic group of people get together. And I want to give a shout out to my own husband, Sterling Miller. They had chainsaws, and the men who lived in Kingsway East, Kingsway West, Penrose, Greaterville, they went out and did a lot of the cleanup themselves, and was a neighborhood group, and just was because they have texts. They text one another, they call one another, they helped board buildings. This was neighborhood to me. It didn't require them to be registered. It's the same thing we've been doing with feeding people, and that. So then all of a sudden now we are going to try to make them be some recognized group of people that have to be registered with the city. Is a step back. And again, it is just appalling to me, this coming from the people who come from the woke generation of people who believe in protests and people who get in the middle of the streets and stop a whole highways from being used, and have gone to people's houses. One of our mayors, if we don't get no justice, you don't get no peace. To shut down the mayor's house even. The protest has been at my house before years ago. Didn't call the police.
Alderman
All
from
of
the
that is
14th,
in
could you
keeping
please
with,
state your point of
neighborhood
order?
spirit.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Rule 36, we are not germane to Board Bill 45. We're talking about woke communities, and if we don't get it, shut it down. Protest that has nothing to do with Board Bill 45.
Alderwoman from the 12th, if you could please keep your comments germane to Board Bill 45.
All of this is in the spirit of neighborhood organizations and what is a neighborhood organization? What is the notice? You have to know what a neighborhood organization is to send it a notice. You cannot exclude that. So I was not, you can say be quiet all you want to, but we talk about registered neighborhood organizations. What is that? Why do we have to register? What happened to how do they become neighborhood organizations? They don't start out being registered. They start out because a group of people get together and they decide to do stuff. And that's what I'm talking about. And it doesn't require registration. And this is not a good piece of legislation. And when you then take out the part that says failure of a city agency to provide a neighborhood notice to a registered neighborhood organization, nothing happens. It's really no enforcement and it shouldn't be done. And it's really more gathering of names and emails more than anything else. It is not a good piece of legislation. I remain opposed to it. I would again ask people not to vote for this legislation because it does a disservice to the neighborhood organizations who don't want to be part of some organized process, but are still neighborhood organizations.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. When it comes to Board Bill 45, I do want to be clear. I am, and in third reading, you can't take yourself off as a co-sponsor once you get to third reading. I did support this bill originally. Also, I did support Board Bill 45 as well, or 44 originally. But when it comes to Board Bill 45, I will be either present or no vote on it because I would love to have more time on this to be able to talk with my neighborhood associations. But I want to be very clear when it comes to Board Bill 45. The legislation, is about ensuring that neighborhood associations have the ability to get information from the city on conditional use hearings and other different things. This legislation, because I think it's important to check the record, even though I'll probably be on the side of alderperson on this. Some of the rhetoric that we just heard before about wokeness and protests has nothing to do with this legislation. I do think this is a good piece of legislation. I would love to see more time on this legislation. However, if this moves forward, this does not stop organizations, neighborhood associations from being able to get the information necessary when it comes to conditional use hearings and other opportunities that the city do offer. So, like I say, I supported this last week. I will be a present or a no this week because I would like to see this have more time so I personally can talk to the organizations and neighborhood associations in my ward about it. But I don't think this is something that is going to ultimately hinder them from being able to still get the information, which will be on the City of St. Louis website when it comes to these different conditional use hearings or different hearings that the City of St. Louis do offer. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, in fact, protest is part of a neighborhood organization sometimes. That is how you do it. When we gather to protest, and the word is protest, the dominoes going at our corner, and running up and down our streets driving. We did protest, and we showed up. The mayor was Vince Shamel then. We showed up 50, 100, 150, so much so that we got the eye of the mayor, who said, when I would stand up and say, my name is Sharon Tyus, he was saying, you are here to talk about dominoes. It absolutely is not rhetoric. It is protest sometime with a neighborhood because they are left out. And while the alderman talks about it doesn't stop them from going online, registering doesn't stop them from going online. The process here is that you're going to give people the right to have stuff mailed to them or emailed to them, not mailed, emailed to them, that you don't give the people who live around something. So the dominoes was posted on a little post that wrapped around, and we didn't find out until almost it was too late. And oftentimes that's what happens. Street signs, it rains, the person who's applying for it pulls it down. I'm for full disclosure. Let's send it to everyone. Let's make it so that we have to mail to the people that are within 300 feet or 500 feet. We do that for liquor licenses. Let's do that for everything else. We're giving them some kind of special notice, and in fact, giving them the ability to have some more notice than other people who might live right next to something that's going on. So that is my problem with it. It is not rhetoric. It is about being true to who you said you were, and then getting into office and then trying to change something and make it so that you leave people out. And you talked about you wanted to talk to your organizations. Please do, because I talked to all of them, as many as I could get to, and none of them knew anything about this. So to say we talked to somebody or we talked to SLACO does not represent everybody, and that is not a good amount of people to have talked to. That's where you have organizations. And the city, by the way, already has a list of organizations. Did we mail out to those people and invite them to come and talk about it? Did we come out and talk about it? We did not. This is not vetted legislation, not 44, not 45. It is not good legislation. It's not rhetoric. And the people who were out there protesting, the alderman from the 14th being one, because when he was out doing that, I was out giving money to his protest. So I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying, then don't get in office and then try to stop people from having that same freedom and saying that if they don't get the rights that other people do. That is what I am opposed to. Neighborhood organizations do not have to be recognized by us to be able to get things. They should be able to just register and say, I want to get an email, not have to be a registered, recognized organization. Or they should be able to call. If my organizations call me, I send them stuff. In fact, normally, if it's something covering one of the neighborhoods, I will send the people who I know who are involved. I can't send to everybody because I don't know them all. But if I have your email, I will send and say, hey, did you know they're having this about this? Did you know we're going to be hearing about this? And that's what we should be doing, including people, not excluding people. And when we start to get into registration, we should know that starts to exclude people. And the alderman from the 4th made a good point, which I had not thought of, about that some people don't want to pay the money. And I should know that because my very own Marketplace Improvement Association never even joined the Urban League because you had to pay money. And we just paid a fee to our own Marketplace Improvement Association. So I am very much for neighborhood organizations. I think they work, they get people involved, they let the elected officials know what they want. But I am opposed to this legislation and the previous legislation because it was not fully vetted. It was not held out for everyone, and it leaves people out, and it's not rhetoric. And talking about woke, yes, there is a conversation about woke people, and so I expect those people. I'm liberal, so I expect when I talk about abortion rights, and they say Sharon Tyus, shame on you. You're for abortion rights. I am. So that's a liberal point of view to me. Okay, so there's no rhetoric about it. So I disagree with your terminology. My whole thing is to make sure people are involved and not to make things that leave people out or feel like that they cannot be part of the process.
President Gray. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 2nd, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 45 as amended in committee. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman,
Aye.
thank you. Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
No.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. 9 aye votes, 5 no votes, and 1 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to third read and finally pass Board Bill 45 as amended.
Board Bill 18. Sponsored by Alderwoman Velazquez, President Green, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderman Browning, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys, and Alderman Aldridge. An ordinance amending ordinance number 71835 to codify interior requirements for residential rentals by striking all mentions of Exhibit A and inserting a new section named Interiors of Building that replicates the contents of Exhibit A and provides additional specifications related to occupancy load.
Alderwoman from the 6th, you are recognized on Board Bill 18.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I move to third read and fully pass Board Bill 18.
Is there a second? Is there a second? It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 10th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 18. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. So Board Bill 18 essentially does two. One, it codifies Exhibit A, which was in the rental registry bill that was passed last session. Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing folks. And then it adds 3 things to, it makes 3 additional tweaks. So it changes that the master bedroom no longer has to be, the main bedroom or master bedroom no longer has to be the biggest bedroom. It changes the on the main bedroom moved, and that children.
Point of order. Point of order. There's somebody.
Alderwoman from the 12th, please state your point of order.
There's someone who has an open mic, and we're hearing a lot. I can't hardly hear the Alderwoman from the 6th because I'm hearing someone talk. I don't know where that's coming from.
If you could please mute the mics that are around you, and Alderwoman from the 6th, if you could try to speak a little louder. It's hard to hear you.
Sure, thank you. So I'll just start all over again. So Board Bill 18 does essentially 2 different things. One, it codifies what was in Exhibit A, which is now an ordinance, but that the Exhibit A is not part of the code, which is all the interior inspection updates, the health and safety updates that the building inspectors use to deem something, to do the interior requirements. And then it does 3 tweaks to make it easier for families, especially growing ones or multi-generational families, to find housing that fits their needs. It says that the main bedroom or the master bedroom no longer has to be the biggest, that 2 people, the limit of 2 people in the main bedroom is removed, and that children under 6 years old won't count toward the total number of people. And we did this working in close proximity with both the mayor's office, the Office of New Americans, and the president's office to really make some tweaks to our occupancy limits to make things friendlier for families. We say we want to attract families and attract population in the city, and this is what this bill aims to do. In committee, we also heard from both the mayor's office and the Office of Americans, and everyone on this board should have received an email last week, except for the newly elected alderwoman from the 8th, with letters of support from 9 different organizations, particularly immigrant and refugee serving organizations, as well as a letter of support from the Women's Safe House, which serves resident or victims of domestic violence, and saying that these relatively minor occupancy tweaks will make it helpful for their clients to find housing that's affordable and safe. So with that, I renew my motion. I feel like there's some folks who want to.
Alderwoman from the 6th, we cannot hear you.
You couldn't hear any of that?
Can you try that again?
Okay. Board Bill 18 does 2 things. It codifies the Exhibit A in the rental registry bill, and it makes some tweaks. Can everybody hear me, first of all? So I don't have to do this
Yes,
every time.
you started out so we could hear you. Keep it at that level.
Okay. Codifies what's in Exhibit A of the rental registry bill, which is now an ordinance, and then it makes a few tweaks to make things family friendly. Everybody should have received an email last week with a frequently asked questions document with these items, as well as a link to the committee discussion from HUDs and letters of support from 9 different organizations. So with that, I'm open to any questions, further discussion.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, if the Alderwoman from the 6th would yield.
Would the Alderwoman from the 6th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 12th?
Yes.
Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you. Alderwoman, I actually agree with most of what you have said. I wanted for you to talk about it so that sometimes the people that are watching us don't know what's in some of these board bills and they have some misconception. I do have a question though, and I agree because my family migrated from the South. And so my grandmother and her younger children had to come and live with family. And so I understand that. Or sometimes family just grows bigger, you have children and you're in a unit. But is there a limit? And I agree with the things about somebody under 6, but is there a limit about like, okay, if there's a mother and a father in a room and then you have twins or you have 3 children under 6, is there a limit of how many children under 6 could be not counted as the occupancy load?
There's no limit for children under 6. It does not change the total limit in regards to square footage, right? So the 150 square footage per person plus, I think it's each, I'm just looking, each additional 100 square feet for each extra person doesn't change. That's currently what's in our code. That does not change. What does change is, yes, theoretically, you could have 3 children under 6, but the total, as far as people over 6, that 150 plus 100 square feet that's currently in our code, that does not change.
Okay, so if I had a family of 5, and it was a mother and a father and 3 children, and 3 children, we had let's say a 2-bedroom. No, we'd have to have a 3-bedroom, I guess. If you had a dining room, we can use a dining room sometime as a bedroom. But let's say we had 3 bedrooms. So we had 3 children, we had another one, we have 4. And then say we had twins. The twins could be part of the occupancy with the parents in the bedroom, or would they just be able to be in the rooms with the other siblings? That's what I'm trying to understand, the whole thing about under 6, okay?
They should be able to be with the parents because they wouldn't count towards
Okay.
that occupancy. Right. So
But if the bedrooms were big enough, could the children then be in the bedrooms, like one in each bedroom with the other siblings, depending on the
Yes.
size of the bedrooms?
Yes.
Because oftentimes families have like a stacked bunk beds, and they'll have a full bed at the end, at the bottom, and a twin bed at the top. And so that would allow them to each have some place to stay. So we wouldn't be prohibiting that.
Right. And then the other part, the tweak, is that it takes away that the master bedroom, because sometimes that what is deemed the master and main bedroom doesn't have to be, you could have a number of people in any bedroom. So,
First of all, I think that is a outdated term. I think
Right.
that's an outdated term, master bedroom. Okay?
Well, that's why I said main. That's what.
I know, and I'm just saying,
Yes.
but we need to get rid of that term, okay? Because the parents, oftentimes in my apartments, they sleep in the smaller ones so that the kids will have larger spaces, okay? So we don't call anything master bedroom, and I've been owning apartments for a long time. We don't do that at all. That's you really want to go back to slave terms if you really want to talk about it, that master thing, okay? So they're bedrooms. But
So the largest bedroom, so let's yes, you were correct. The largest bedroom does not have to be, people can live in any, it takes that requirement away that certain people have to live in the largest.
But I'm saying that at some point, I would like for us, there should be no requirement where you sleep. And we don't do that in our apartments, okay? So if the parents want to sleep in the smallest bedroom, that's what they do, okay? And that's something we need to revisit. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit to understand that. I was not opposed to your legislation. I did read what you sent to me, and I will be supportive of it. Thank you for responding to my questions.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 6th, you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President. With that, I renew my motion to third read and finally pass Board Bill 18.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 10th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 18. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devote. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
No.
13 aye votes and 2 voted no.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 6th to third read and finally pass Board Bill 8.
Madam President, that was 18.
18, yes.
That's the extent of third reading, final passage of board bills.
Report of the finally passed and signed by the President.
Board Bill 18, 40, 48, 50, 42, 44, and 45 as amended in committee.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix her signature hereto to the end that these may become law. First reading resolutions in reference to committees.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 22. Second reading resolutions, committee reports and adoption.
Report from the Public Safety Committee.
Alderman from the 4th, you are recognized on the report from the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The Public Safety Committee unanimously passed out resolution number 51 as amended. I believe Exhibit A is on folks' desks, so that is where the Prop S funds will be allocated. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman from the 4th. With that, I will entertain a motion that the meeting of the full Board of Aldermen be closed to the public under the provisions of 610.0213 and 610.022 of the Missouri Revised Statutes in order to permit the members of the board to discuss matters related to the hiring, firing, disciplining, or promotion of employees of the Board of Aldermen. Motion. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
15 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion of the Alderman from the 3rd. STLTV, if you could please place us in closed session, and anyone who is not Clerk Sharita or members of the Board of Aldermen, if you could please vacate the chambers or the gallery. And we are back. Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please make sure I'm listed as a co-sponsor in Resolution 52?
Yes, ma'am, you're on Resolution 52.
Great, thank you. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 25, announcements.
We have none.
Is there any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We, in the 10th Ward, I want to let everyone know that we'll be back on our monthly one-on-one schedule. We've been off for the last couple of months, May because of Memorial Day, and then, of course, June, still in recovery mode, and we shifted and pivoted to a meeting that Mayor Spencer and her Recovery Task Force team had when a joint meeting with myself and Alderman Browning. So this month, we will pick back up on the 28th. That's that last Monday of the month, as usual. The location will be announced because we are still struggling with a lot of our venues being, of course, damaged by the tornado. So we are working towards that, but just to let you know, our circuit attorney will be our speaker. I want to publicly thank the circuit attorney's office for the work him and his team in the 10th Ward and did yesterday on the ground with a partnership with Love the Lou Foundation, not only in their space, but then they went out into the neighborhood, walked the blocks, knocked the doors, and reached out to our residents that way. So thank you, Circuit Attorney Gore and your team, and also thank you for being our speaker, as well as we will have communications from the mayor's new task force from tornado recovery. So please be tuned about that. And then on Saturday, it is food truck Saturday in the 10th Ward at the Urban League. Walk up only. It starts at 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Urban League Regional Headquarters at 1408 North Highway. They have several food trucks already signed up, and I'm always getting more notifications that they're having different. So there'll be a variety of food trucks there. Again, this is Food Truck Community Day at Urban League, as well as continuing the work that they do and the outreach that they're doing. They've been serving and they continue to serve, and this is 1,000 served meals by our St. Louis favorite food trucks. Hope to see you out there.
Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to announce a Budget and Public Employees Committee, which will be July the 30th at 11 a.m. in the Kennedy Room, where the Budget and Public Employees Committee will hear updates from the recent expenditures of the RAMS bill and the funds in that legislation. It says that the Budget Committee will have a monthly meeting on how those funds are being spent, and our first meeting will be held again on July 30th at 11 a.m., where we have confirmation so far from the mayor's office and working to have confirmation from all members of ENA. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to announce that the Alderwoman from the 1st and I are hosting our quarterly town hall July 25th at noon at the Carondelet Library. So far, we have confirmed Peter Hoffman from LA Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, and working on some other special guests to join us and talk about important things happening in the 3rd and 1st. Oh, it's July 20. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I had the July 26th, Carondelet Library at noon. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 5th.
Yes, Madam President. I would like to announce that on Wednesday, July 16, we are having our first ever 5th Ward ward-wide town hall. It'll begin at 6:30. It is at St. Ambrose Catholic Church in Polizzi Hall. And we look forward to seeing all folks in the 5th Ward next Wednesday.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. All members were present this morning. All members, including our newest member.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are now recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn until Friday, September 12th, 2025, in the Board of Aldermen chambers at 10 a.m.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adjourn until Friday, September 12th, 2025, at the Board of Aldermen chambers at 10 a.m. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.